Hi all. Today we are going to solve an SQL problem using recursive CTE and the window functions. So let's dive into this. The scenario is we have a warehouse manager who wants to know how many consecutive days an item was out of stock. Out of stock as in when the quantity was zero. He or she doesn't want a list of days. He wants the streak. I'll explain in the short while what is strict. So the goal is if an item was out of stock for let's say 5 days, then back in the stock and then out for another 3 days. So we should return the two rows. One is for 5 days streak and one is for 3 days streak. I'll just quickly show you the data. So here focus on this. We have product ID 500. So I think 9 records are there, and then again we have product ID 600 and then 700. So what the warehouse manager wants is how many days the stock was out of stock. So that means quantity was zero, so that is 1 2 3. So for 3 days initially it was out of stock, then for 2 days it was out of stock. So here 5 is it was restocked, so we won't be considering that as a streak is consecutive days. Then another 2 days it was out of stock, then on 8th of January it got restocked, and again it was out of stock for 1 day. So similarly it applies for the product ID 600 and 700. Okay, so let's try to see how we can build this using Excel as well. I'll create another sheet for you, and let me just zoom it out a little bit. Okay, I'll just copy paste this data. Reason I'm doing it in Excel is I want to show you how we are going to build the intermediate logic. Okay, so that is what the crucial part is. We need to think in between the temporary rows or the temporary tables and then build the logic on top of it. So as we go along this, I'll mark this as a bold to make sure that this is the base table that we have. We won't be changing it almost until towards the end, and I'll show you the transitions as well. Okay, let's dive into this. So let's take a moment and think about how we want to achieve this. So we want this as a 1 2 3. So this is 3 days streak. Then it is zero, that is 0 day streak, then 1 day and one, and this another zero, so 2 days, so and so forth. So we'll start with what we know or what we can build as at a first. So if we can compare the current quantity with the previous quantity, then we'll know, we'll be able to find out the difference between them and accordingly calculate the logic. So let's create a raw transition table in between. Okay, so I'll create a CTE. Let's say we'll name it as raw transition. As yeah I'm expecting that you guys know the syntax already, so I won't be explaining the syntax of, like, let's say CT and all. I'll type and go along. I can review for it later, or what whenever you get stuck or you don't know any syntax, you just Google it for now and uh, go ahead with the logic. Okay, so let's say star will print. Yeah, the idea is print everything till the end, and whenever you want to filter the record, then only apply remove the record, remove the columns. So that way you will be able to know how the values or the rows or the columns are transitioning within the query. That will help you understand how the data is changing as well. So always print everything till towards the end, only you can change it. So I want to compare the current quantity with the previous quantity. I'll in a short while I'll tell you why. Okay, so let's say lag. What we want to compare? We want to compare the quantity. So quantity. Also, this is a window function. You know the syntax. Lag quantity or partition by. What are we partitioning by? We are partitioning by the product ID. So product ID and then we'll be ordering by obviously the log date, because that's the logical column that we have as an order by column. So this is previous quantity. We'll just name it previous QTY from inventory. Let's run the inner query first to check if it is working fine. Okay, I'll copy paste this column in here. Okay, okay. So we have, obviously the first record will always be null, considering that there is no previous quantity to this record. Uh, so the previous quantity or the lag function will yield it as 10 of the, so this value will be taken here, then this value will be taken here, and in the next column, sorry, my bad, this will be taken, let's say different color, so on and so forth. You can apply the logic now, right? Okay. So now we have got the quantity and the previous quantity. Now we know which day the quantity was present, and which day, previous day, the quantity was not present. Okay, let's move further. So we'll just close this CTE. We are going to use the above CTE logic into the next. So it is basically a recursive CTE. Um, we'll have to make use of these two columns in the subsequent CTE to flag the records. So here we do not have any ID as such, on the basis of which we can partition. We can partition, but we can flag it as anything, because this is kind of a time series problem statement. So in the time series, we don't generally have ID, so we'll have to create IDs for those. Okay, so I'll be writing a flag. So I cannot write flag as it is a uh, keyword. So I'm naming it as a flagging a new city. Let's select star again. The motive is print everything till the point you're comfortable. Okay, I'll write a case statement here, and I'll explain it in a while that why I'm writing a case statement. So when quantity is equal to 0 and previous quantity greater than 0, and or not, sorry, my bad, it should be or previous previous quantity is null, then one, else 0, as is is new string from raw transition. So I'm using this here. Okay, and as, yeah. Okay, let's understand this piece of logic now with the help of Excel. So far we have gotten to this point. We have got previous quantity, we have got quantity. Now we want to make sure that we are giving it some ID or some flag to help us in the next or the further process. So uh, let's forget about star for now. We'll just focus on this column, as we are going to add this in here in the Excel. New streak, what is saying is, quantity, if the quantity is 0, or okay, when the quantity is 0 and previous quantity is either greater than 0 or is null, then we should consider it as a new streak. Okay, so I'll just copy paste this particular line here, so that we have everything on single screen. Okay, when quantity is 0, is quantity 0 here? No, that means it will be 0 here. Is the quantity 0? Yes, correct, it is 0. Then previous quantity is greater than 0? Yes, it is 10. So it is satisfying our criteria, so it is 1. Now here quantity is 0, but the previous quantity is 0. So it will be 0, my bad, sorry, 0. Then again here it will be come on, 0. Here quantity is not 0, so 0. Here quantity is 0 and previous quantity is greater than 5, so it will be 1. So basically we are creating a flag here which will help us identify how many streaks are there. I'll explain that logic also. 0 1 0 1 0 0 0. Okay, let's forget about this column for a while. Okay, just focus on the column C. When the let's ask ourselves a question. When the new streak starts, it starts when there is a restocking. Okay, so from this column, or there is out of stock as well. Pause. When the new streak starts, when there is a there is no stock left in the inventory or the warehouse. So earlier it was 10, now it is 0, so this is the new streak. We want streak, right? So it should be starting with 0. When will be the next streak? This will continue because we do not have stock, we have not replenished the stock, so it will continue as 0. Now here there is a transition from 0 to 5. So for the next so it got restocked. When the next streak start, in our case streak is out of stock quantity, so here it starts, so we have flagged it as 1. Again there is no restocking done, so it is 0. Here it got restocked, so new streak will start here, and so on and so forth. So if we just focus on this 500 row, I mean product ID, and let's me just give it a little more color. Okay. So we have got a flag, right? When the stock becomes out of stock, that means the quantity becomes 0 for the first time within the streak, then we mark it as 1. And when it gets replenished, then we kind of mark it as 0 to make sure that we are not we are not terming it as a new streak. Okay, let's move it. Okay, so we have got this much information. Now we'll have to group it. Okay, so I cannot put here because we are yet to write the entire query. I'll just show you the logic, how it appears in between the code. Now what we want is, we want to sum it. Okay, so we have to make sure that these three zeros in a consecutive row eventually becomes one streak. So how many days streak was there? So it would be 3 days streak. For which product? For 500 product a day, as in 500. Okay, so how do we achieve this value? So we already have product ID, we have to get to 3, right? Because 3 because there are three zeros here. That means we somewhere we have to do a summation, or the sum of these three rows, not the values, not the quantities, the rows. So we'll have to make sure that we add these consecutively within the window. So we'll have to make use of window function. So I'll write something like this. Let's say grouping as. I'm not sure if this grouping is a keyword, but let's see if where it gets us. So, as usual, so print everything. So we'll be using some function like this. I said sum is new streak. If it is a new streak, we'll have to mark it as we'll have to sum it over partition by, what are we partitioning by? Product ID. Do we have it here? Yeah, product ID. Order by, you can just copy the order by log date. Order by log date. Here we'll be adding one more not a condition, but the keywords which we generally do not add unless absolutely necessary for aggregate function. So that is rows. So I'll just write it in caps to make more sense of it. Un- Unbounded preceding. What it does is, so from the value it considers all the previous values. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to name it as, let's say, streak ID. We have to streak ID. So this will act as a grouping column or a unique ID, or ID for that matter. I'm not sure about unique ID yet, but let's see what how it where it leads us. Okay, from the above table above. So this is a recursive CTE from flagging, and let's print everything to make more sense of it. Star from Twitter. Okay. Okay, what we are printing here. Okay, let me comment it out so that I have enough space. Okay, let's copy this here in Excel. Okay, I'll just copy the last column because we already let's compare it first. Have we got the logic right? So 0 0 1 1 0, then 1 1. Yeah, it seems in order. So I'll just delete the values here, and I'll add the ID that we had added. Okay, streak ID. I'll delete this part as well. So what we have done is I'll copy the sum or the window function just to explain it in here. Okay. Mm, okay, sum is new streak over partition by product ID. So we'll be considering this window order by, we already have the dates as ordered. Unbounded preceding is from anything previous to the current row. Okay, so we have gotten 0 here because there was no uh, value there. I mean, his new streak was 0. So if in when we come to second row, we got some his new streak 1, then it printed 1. Then we went to this particular row number, I mean Excel row number 4. It is 0 here, but I said, it is considering unbounded preceding. That means it will consider whatever previous to this. So it is 1. Again, same logic for here also. Whatever was earlier present, 1 1. Here we got another one, so it is adding this one to the existing one that it had calculated. So it has marked it as 2. For 0 it is keeping the same value 2. For now again we are getting one more, so it is adding it to 3. So just go through this rows unbounded preceding if you are not familiar with it. Okay, so we have got ID. So basically, if you look at it closely, we have gotten our streaks. What we couldn't add zeros, right? We have to have some ID or some value there which we can sum up to make sure that it is leading to 3 value, right? So we have gotten those values here. We have to do a little bit of engineering here to make sure that we are getting to those values. Okay. Okay, now how we can go from this to this. Okay, so okay, let me add few more details here. So this is one streak, right, for these many days. So is it okay to say that for this, from this date to this date, we had uh, zero quantity? So such there were three streaks were there, 3 days were there under one streak. Okay, then again here two records, right? So is it, it's safe to say that for this date, that is 1/6 to 1/7, we had 2 days. Then here it got yeah, here it is out of stock. That means for a single day it was out of stock, so it is 1. Okay, so how many days are there if we consider 2, 3 and 4? So there are 3 days, right? But we, okay, 3 days, we want this as an our this as our output. How we can achieve that? We have to partition properly, or okay, we have to group it properly. Okay, so I'll just copy this for a reference in properly. Okay, so what we want product id. Then what is this? This is minimum date within this particular window, correct? Before that, let's do one thing. We don't want any values which are not 0, right? So let's group it here. Sorry, filter it here where quantity equal to 0. So automatically we are left with sorry, yeah, 0 values, where quantity is 0. So this to this, sorry, this, yeah. So this is minimum date, this is maximum date. We'll just print that. Minimum of log date, where it is, yeah, as streak start, max of log date as streak end. Okay, so we got this 500 product id start end and number of days. So we'll have to do the sum here. Sorry, yeah, we can either do sum, which is little tricky, or we can deduce the value from these. Okay, so let's use date diff function. I can look it up. So it is day comma, I'm not sure day it works, but let me give it a try. So I'll just copy this min comma max as days out of stock. So we have used aggregate function, so we'll have to obviously use the group by clause. We'll be grouping it by product id, but of course, and by streak id. So by why by streak id? Because we want only those values for which we have streak id present. Okay, so this one will automatically get filtered because the quantity was 5, so we'll left with only 3. So date diff blah blah blah, yeah, streak id, I want streak id. Let me copy it from above, and you can order it by, again, both. I think I'll order it by start date only, so it will be streak start, sorry, start. And let's run it. Let's see what quantity. Yeah, my keyboard. Okay, we are getting 210000. So even though there was a 3 day, there were 3 days where it was out of stock. Let's go back to Excel where it is. Yeah, you can see here 3 days, but we are getting only 2 because during the date difference it is doing 4 minus 2. So we'll have to add one more day to it. Okay, so date diff plus 1. Let's see what it yields. Okay, now we have it good. So for 3 days, between 1 to 4th, first, sorry, 2nd to 4th, for 3 days it was out of stock. Is it correct? Yes, from 2nd to 4th, sorry, 4th, there were 3 days it was out of stock. Then from 6th and 7th, which is for 2 days, 6th and 7th, 2 days, and so on and so forth. So we have gotten our value. So this is how we have to think in the layered architecture. Data we had sorry what data we had, how we added intermediate columns in multiple CTEs, and how we achieved the final result. Okay, I know it is a lot to digest. It is going to take some practice to get to this part. I'm pretty sure you'll get there. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.